All right, it is another edition of our NHL preview as we get ready for the start of the NHL season. And look, every team comes in saying they are the one that, like, this is our year. It's Stanley Cup or bust. Here we go. We got this. This is our year. We know only a few mean that, though, right? We have an understanding, like, they're talking in Calgary about, I think we can surprise some people. Will you? We'll see. But there are some teams who that's legitimate. It is Stanley Cup or bust. And there are even more teams who have a lot of pressure on them coming into this season. And so today, going to be looking at the teams that need the Stanley Cup the most. Which teams need to win this year? Obviously, I feel like a lot of teams, want to win and all of those things. But who needs this one the most? I have a poll up right now, so you guys can get that voting going and all of those things. But let's get into it now. Honorable mention to the Carolina Hurricanes. This is a team that I feel like they have underperformed in the postseason the last couple of years. I do only have them as an honorable mention simply because they are a team that lost quite a few pieces in this offseason. And so I think the pressure to do well, even though I put their coach on the hot seat on the last preview episode that we did on Wednesday, I do think that this is a team that probably has a little bit of wiggle room. So, coming in at number 5, the team that needs it the most this year in the NHL, it's the Boston Bruins. The Bruins are a team that long, proud history, all of those things. But it's been a minute since they were a Stanley Cup contender in, the late rounds of the Stanley Cup playoffs and things like that. They have gone out and made some big acquisitions that people in Calgary are going to be very familiar with, right? When you bring in Nikita Zadorov and you bring in a Elias Lindholm, you are not doing that just so the long-term stability of this organization. You are wanting to win now because those contracts, just I hate to tell you, those contracts aren't going to look awesome in the next couple of years. And so when you have the Boston Bruins, who haven't been out of the second round since they lost to the St. Louis Blues back in 2019, I think there's some pressure on here. And I think that this is a team that is going to try to come out and really make a statement. Again, I think it gets ugly. We're also in the latter stages of Brad Marchand and in the latter stages of, not latter stages, I guess. I was going to say of Pasternak. I don't think that's accurate, actually. But Marchand, he is on the back part of his career, still playing very effectively, but still in the back part of his career. And so I think when you combine all of those forces, it leads to must-win territory for the Boston Bruins. So they are the team that needs it the 5th most, in my opinion, in the NHL. At 4, it's the New York Rangers. I have said before, I like this Rangers team a lot. Panarin is legitimately one of my favorite players in the NHL, and Mika Zibanejad, ditto. And so, like, there are pieces on this team that I really, really, really like. But I do also have some concerns, again, about maybe a lack of playoff success. This has been one of the best teams in the league for a minute now, and it still hasn't really clicked in the way that they would want it to. If we're going to hold the Boston Bruins record against them, I guess the Rangers, they do make it to the conference finals here this last go around. Actually, you know what? They've been in the conference finals 2 of the last 3 years. Maybe I'm overstating the lack of playoff success. Because before that, they had the first round loss against the Devils. They didn't qualify for the playoffs in 20 and 21. And actually, that was 4 years in a row. They technically didn't qualify for the postseason. So maybe I'm still stuck in that. But either way, their time is now. When you look at having one of the best goaltenders in the league, one of the best players in the league in Artemi Panarin, one of the best defensemen in the league Adam Fox, then all of a sudden, this is a team that I think should be doing a little bit better than they have been and needs to start to really build some things up here. So I do think that there is a lot of pressure on the New York Rangers. The team with the third most amount of pressure on them this year, the Vegas Golden Knights. Hey, Crash Andrews. How's it going? Thanks for joining the chat. And also, I believe we just had an influx of people here. So yes, we're doing a bit of NHL right now, and then we're going to get to the fantasy football in just a second. At number 3, it's the Vegas Golden Knights. They just won the Stanley Cup very, very recently. But I feel like when you run a team the way Vegas does, there is kind of a proof of concept that is needed when you are constantly, hey, Toxic, how's it going? When you are constantly out there moving players and just, okay, well, we traded this for this guy. He is the apple of our eye. This is so nice to see. By the way, we've just traded you to Buffalo, so deal with that. When you are constantly moving players in and out and trying to circumvent things the way they have, which again, totally legal, but when you do that, you do have to continue to win. Vegas did not do that last year. There's pressure on them to do it this year. At 2, it's the Toronto Maple Leafs because they're the Maple Leafs. But also, this is kind of the last dance for this group, which, again, I apologize for continuing to be one of the people who overuses that. And so, oh, thank you, Crash. I really appreciate that. I appreciate that quite a bit. Thank you. For the Leafs, like, again, I said this is the last dance. This is not a team that has had the success even close to the Chicago Bulls. They are to losing what the Bulls were to winning in the playoffs anyway. But still, this is the last go-around probably for Matthews, Nylander, Marner, and Tavares, and Riley. I think we can all agree on that one as well. So I do think that there is quite a bit of pressure on Toronto this year to find a proof of concept. Listening to the CJ show with CJ and Julian, yes, I still listen to some shows on that network. One. But listening to them, you have they were talking about what would be the funniest thing to happen to your team. And I think they said for the Leafs is like, Marner comes out and has just a blowaway playoffs and this team makes like the Eastern Conference Finals. That would be hilarious. That would be absolutely amazing. I would greatly appreciate that. I think it would be just a whole lot of fun if that was a thing that that ended up happening with them. And so I do think that there is quite a bit of pressure on the Toronto Maple Leafs to try to make something like that happen here this year. And the number 1 team with the most pressure on them is the Edmonton Oilers. They finally make it to the promised land within Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. And wouldn't you know it, they come up just a little bit short. They do, I still think, again, I know, Toxic, I know, that the Oilers, we don't want them to do it, but they kind of need to. When you have Draisaitl, when you have McDavid, when you have a Draisaitl extension coming up that is going to be expensive, and you have a McDavid contract that is coming up that's going to be expensive, there's a lot of pressure to win now. And when you give up on future assets like Holloway and Broberg in the way they did, the pressure is on in Edmonton. I don't think I'm breaking news with that, but the pressure is absolutely 100% on with the Edmonton Oilers. So they are the team that needs it the most in the NHL for the 2024-2025 season.